What's up, Facebook? Happy Thursday. Recovery Fitness going live. Michael, what's up, Rock? So I'll wait a few moments for some of you guys to join in here. Hope everyone's hanging in there. Slowly but surely making it through the week. Actually, it's gone by kind of fast. At least it has for me. Not sure about you guys, but I don't know. Everything's just kind of flying by lately and blending in together, and God only knows what day it is anymore. But nonetheless, still trudging forward and moving through. So I hope that you guys are keeping yourselves busy and active, keeping yourselves educated during this time. I was actually just sat through a webinar on grief, and kind of realizing that we're all going through different stages of grief right now. So that part of that was really interesting, and just allowing ourselves to grieve through everything that we're going through right now, and allowing others to grieve through it. And we're all doing it in different ways and at different times, and kind of going through those stages of grief. So it was a really interesting webinar. So I'm hoping that you guys are able to engage in some of those things online. There's a lot of free opportunities and trainings and webinars and all sorts of good information that's been going around for quite a while now. So see a couple of you in here, so would love to hear some check-ins. How's everybody's day going so far? Hey, Jake. How's it going? So kind of another rainy blah day, but it's okay. Still staying busy, staying active. So curious what you guys are doing to fill your time throughout your day. Are you working from home? Are you able to make schedules for yourself to kind of keep some sort of structure? Are you just doing whatever the heck you feel like that comes to mind, which is cool too? So would love to hear some check-ins for you guys. I see there's quite a few of you on here right now, so please feel free to check in the comments. So we'll kind of jump into today's reading. So the past couple days I've been reading to you guys the book Hopeful Healing by Mackenzie Phillips. So just to give you a little bit of background, maybe some of you have heard of her. She is an actress. She used to be on several soap operas, and she's also the author of the New York Times bestseller, her own memoir, High on Arrival. She is the daughter of the founder of the 1960s band, the Mamas and the Papas. Mackenzie grew up in a dysfunctional environment and subsequently battled a near-fatal drug addiction. Now a drug and alcohol counselor and outspoken advocate for addiction awareness and education, she gets real about the hard times of recovery, how to get through them, and the joy of experiencing life clean and sober. Hey, Holly. David, what's up? So just to kind of give you guys a little background on what this book is about as well. So each chapter is kind of like the short little essay, just kind of moving through different stages of addiction and into recovery, and kind of inspiring hope. She does share like little bits and pieces of her story, but her other book, her memoir, High on Arrival, that's really where she kind of gets into her own story. I've actually not read that. I would actually love to check that out. So many books on the list. I feel like I'm lucky to get through one lately. So anyways, Mackenzie said, in these essays, I've concentrated on the concepts and feelings that surround the recovery process rather than on the linear story of my life and recovery. Too much traffic out there. I wanted to preserve the conversational foundation of these essays so that they would provide a genuine experience, and hopefully the person reading them would find a friend and some words that are helpful along their own journey. This is a wisdom-based book, not a clinical book. This is also a conversational book. While I do include some basic facts about substance use disorders, I make no claim to being an expert on all things addiction and recovery. I am, however, an expert in my own experiences of those two things, and it is in this that I have found the strongest connection with my clients at the recovery center where I work. So that's just to give you guys a little bit, just a little background on the book, a little background on Mackenzie Phillips, kind of also doing some check-ins at the same time. Jake says, I'm doing well. Lately I've been trying to mix things up, filling my days with positive things, but it's important to me to have a variety of different things to do. My schedule times are pretty consistent, but activities have been varying to keep things interesting. That is awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, it's good for us to have like a little bit of structure, right? A little bit of schedule, but also being able to be kind of loose and fluid with it. So when something kind of comes up in the day or something, runs a little bit longer than intended or just something kind of changes throughout the course of the day, can you guys be flexible enough to kind of just change course and go with the flow? So that's awesome. Glad to hear that, Jake. All right, so today's what I've been doing is I don't read the whole chapters to you guys. They are a little bit lengthy, but I'll kind of pick out the parts that I feel are important to share. And I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I'm not up here as an expert on anything by any means other than my own story and my own experience, strength, and hope, which I try to share with you guys. But please, as always, I encourage you guys to comment as we're reading along here. Please be open. I encourage you guys to be vulnerable. You guys have been great on here so far. Hey, Keisha. And as always, I encourage you guys just to be respectful of each other in your comments. So we'll kind of jump into today's reading. So chapter 5 is on control, acceptance, and surrender. And she always starts with a quote. This is from F. Scott Fitzgerald. First you take a drink, then the drink takes a drink, then the drink takes you. So some of you who are in recovery have probably heard that before. So yes, on control, acceptance, and surrender. So I kind of jump around a little bit. Again, I'm not reading the whole chapter to you guys, just kind of picking out the meat of the topic. So Mackenzie says, your control over things that are outside of you is super small, as in non-existent. Sure, you can do things to influence people, like try to get your aunt to stop wearing kitten sweatshirts, but you can't make her stop loving them, because it is not in your control, because it is outside of you. You're not the boss of her. And seriously, do you want to be? Just accept it and surrender to the kittens. And the title of this chapter is actually called Surrender to the Kittens. Acceptance and control and acceptance. In the world of recovery, these two things are connected and fit into an equation that, when combined with surrender, end up equaling a pretty amazing sense of release. Of course, telling yourself to surrender is one thing. Actually doing it is something else. As with most things, you have to begin somewhere. But what exactly is acceptance? The first thing to understand is that acceptance is an action. When we accept something, we are in the act of acknowledging it with an attitude of tolerance and broad-mindedness. Acceptance is often connected with letting go, but I like to think about it as consenting to just let something be what it is. And keep this in mind. You don't have to let go of whatever you're trying to accept. It's part of your life. It's a part of your life, a part of what makes you, you. And you should always feel welcome within yourself. Try just letting the thing be what it is without a running critique and commentary. It's the critique and commentary that keeps the thing front and center. Begin to turn that commentary off, and it recedes, becoming one of the memories that make up the emotional furniture and knickknacks of your inner house. How do we accept something? If we're talking about past things, the first thing you have to acknowledge is that nothing you do now is going to change what happened then. Time is all forward motion. There isn't a reverse. The clock doesn't go backward, and neither can you. By picking up a drink or taking a drug, you might think that you can relive the past. Hello, Groundhog Day. Here's the thing. You could choose to try and relive the same day over and over, or you could choose to not act on your addiction. All you can pretty much do is say, well, that happened, and then learn how to move forward. This sucks, and it's hard to do. Acceptance of all of the crap things in your past doesn't happen overnight. You have to be mindful of it and every day. Once you have the motions down, you have to continue to choose it every day. Choosing is powerful. If we're talking about accepting what's going on right now, the first thing you have to do is acknowledge that now is happening. The next thing, and this is the hardest thing, is to do nothing and take a moment to let the situation be what it is. To do this, you need to be as open-minded as you can. And be mindful, of course. And both take practice. Acceptance is not saying that you can't change. It's not saying this is how it is, so this is how it's always going to be. It means that you have to come to experience a peace with things as they are without taking away the ability to create change. You're not saying, I give up. What you're doing is acknowledging that you can't change the nature of your substance use disorder. That if you have the first drink or the first shot, that if you pick it up, you'll burn it down. This act of acceptance, this act of acknowledgement, is an amazing act of self-empowerment that actually facilitates positive change in your life. I'm kind of jump around a little bit here. So I'll kind of pause there for a second too, actually. The topic on acceptance is something that is talked about quite often, but, just like anything else that we've been talking about on here, like, it's a practice, right? It's something that takes work. It's something that does not come overnight, and sometimes it takes people years, everyone kind of gets it at a different pace, and that's okay. Everyone's on their own journey. But I love what she talks about, acceptance of acceptance of things that have happened in the past, right? So we can talk about acceptance of everything that's going on right now. But then there's also this other piece that, acceptance of all the things in the past, right? And try just letting it be. Try to turn off that critique and commentary in your head, right? I don't know about you guys, but that's really hard for me when I think about past situations or even current situations. There's always this like running loop of Chelsea commentary in my head that just doesn't shut off. And sometimes it's really annoying. It drives me nuts. I don't know if any of you guys struggle with that, but it's a challenge. But I love that she says, keep this in mind. You don't have to let go of whatever you're trying to accept. It's part of your life and a part of what makes you you, and you should always feel welcome within that. But try just letting the thing be what it is without the critique and commentary. Being able to turn that commentary off, it really just becomes, by doing that, we're letting that become just one of the memories that make up who we are and make up our own experience, It doesn't mean we have to always let it go, but she says, how do we accept something? If we're talking about the past, the first thing we have to do is acknowledge that nothing I do now is going to change what has happened back then, right? She makes a very valid point, and it's such an obvious thing, right? But I think sometimes we're all pretty quick to forget that. Time is all forward motion. There is no reverse. The clock does not go backwards, and neither do we. We can't go back and change things that are already done. Even things 5 minutes ago, if anything I said 10 seconds ago, it's gone. Time is only a forward motion, right? So kind of accepting that, just saying, okay, well, that happened. How do I move forward? And sometimes that does look like letting go, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just accepting what is, and that's okay. And she's right, it sucks and it's hard to do. But it doesn't happen overnight. We just have to be mindful of it, and we have to practice it every single day. And the more we practice anything else and kind of get those motions down, the easier it becomes, And even then, it's not always easy, right? There are some days where acceptance is really hard. There are some days where I struggle with acceptance, I read a little acceptance piece every morning, and there's some mornings where I want to chuck that book across the room, say I don't want to accept. But you know what I mean? It's this constant practice, And I love how she also says, acceptance is not saying that you can't change, It's not getting in that mindset of this is how it is, so this is how it's always going to be. That's not what it means at all, We just have to come to experience a peace with things as they are without taking away the ability to create change. So just literally accepting things as they are, right? So kind of moving forward a little bit, she says, and so I have had to surrender to what is. That means letting go of responsibility for how others choose to feel and act. I understand that I have no control over how my family, individually or collectively, feels. I read that again. I have no control over how my family, my friends, any other human in the world around me. I have no control over anybody else besides me and my own actions. And that is really hard sometimes. That is something that I struggle with too, Sometimes we want people to do the right things. Well, why are they off doing this? Why do they get to go do that, It's not about that. I can't control what they do. And I have to accept that. We all have to. It's challenging some days. But it's really not about me, and it's not mine to carry. I can't force them to come to terms with it, and I can't make them let go of the pain. These things are not within my power. I've also had to accept that, of course, I'd be the target of negative reactions and feelings because I'm the one who wrote the book and told the truth no one wanted to hear. So she's actually talking about in her other book, in her memoir that she wrote, there was a lot of trauma and some really difficult things and some really horrific events that had happened early on in her childhood. And so she's talking about for her, that example of acceptance really comes in like with her family, just because of all the things that had happened, and she realizes that she doesn't have control over them, and it's caused a lot of strain in her relationship. So it's kind of what she's talking at this point in the book. I skipped ahead a little bit. So she says, in the end, distance and grace given to me by the practice of acceptance and surrender forced me to redefine myself, to value myself, and to see my own worth. Now, the truth is that little visits over the phone and maybe occasional visits in person are enough, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be more than what it simply is. So you can think about that. If you have any difficult relationships in your own life, whether it's a family member, someone you're even quarantined with, a significant other, friends, maybe who are living a different lifestyle than you, and that's causing some tension between you. Just realizing that it doesn't have to be more than what it simply is. It's okay to keep distance between us and other people. Sometimes an occasional phone call or an occasional visit is enough, and that's okay. She says, it may sound like it was easy, but it wasn't. I grieved, and even though I chose to let go in the end, I felt like I'd lost a limb. But it's okay to grieve the loss of things we can't change. When you get past the point of grief, then you're able to create something even better, something more fulfilling and healthier. Kind of skipping down a little bit. Identifying the aspects of your life that are worth fighting for and the ones that are better to let go of is a difficult process, but a necessary one. In the context of addiction, it's this. Know when drugs and alcohol have beaten you. It's a horrifying reality to face, but it's absolutely essential to recovery. So, and she always kind of ends each chapter with some kind of things to really think about, things to just kind of ponder of your own lives. And then there's always an action piece. So I've been reading those to you guys the past couple days. So today's kind of thought is, accept this. The next time you think about something in your past that upsets you, ask yourself out loud or write it down. Right now in this moment, can I change what happened back then? So anything you can think about that has been a struggle in your past, anything that has happened in your life before, if it's upsetting you, if it's causing any type of negative feeling when you think about it, or say you see somebody out in public that you're really uncomfortable with, it's causing negative emotions, right? Because there's something that has happened in the past that probably had some negative outcomes to it. So if there's any of those things that you can think about, ask yourself out loud or write it down. Right now, in this moment, can I change what happened back then? And she says, hint. The answer to that question is always, always, always going to be no. No, we cannot change anything that has happened in our past. But I love the point that she gets at. Write it down, say it out loud, ask yourself anyways, because it kind of gets us to pause for a minute, right? We're always talking about self-reflection on here, and really is self-awareness. So it gets us to slow down. So when those uncomfortable feelings come up of something that has happened in our past, it's forcing us to pause and say, can I change what happened back then? The answer is always going to be no. Now, after you've asked yourself the question and given yourself the answer, say or write this. Yes, it happened, and right now in this moment, I'm okay. I accept this. The next time something happens in your present that upsets you, put yourself through similar steps. Say or write, I accept that this is happening to me right now. Next, ask yourself, right now in this moment, can I change something about this situation? And if so, what would that thing be? Even if that thing is to just call a friend or a sponsor, to take a walk to clear your mind, or spend 5 minutes cuddling your dog, it's on you to take your acceptance one step further into action. Choosing to accept is powerful. Choosing to act on that acceptance is revolutionary. And I love that part too, because we can even think about, we can think about things in our past that upset us and realize that, say, okay, can I change anything that's happened in my past? No. But if there's a situation going on right now that's upsetting us, for a lot of you, there's, the whole pandemic that's going on, it's something that people are constantly talking about and how it's affecting their lives and how it's upsetting them. So we can take the same steps for that. We can pause, right? We can pause once again and reflect a little bit. And we can just say, I accept that this is happening to me right now. And we can go one step further and say, right now in this moment, can I change something about this situation? And if so, what would that thing be? So if it is this giant thing that's going on for you that's causing you grief and being upset right now, think about that. Can you change anything about that situation? We can't necessarily change the pandemic and everything external that's going on, but what can I change in this situation for me, right? What can I do to take action? Like she says, like, can I get up and take a walk? Can I go cuddle the dog for 5 minutes? Can I call a friend? Can I call a sponsor? Can I relax and do some meditation? Can I engage in any kind of craft and art project? And maybe you've been doing that every single day and you're driving yourself nuts with all the projects around the house. Like, I get that, This is hard right now. But we still need to have acceptance, and taking it one step further into action. So, and then there is the action piece in here. She says, it's always titled, "It Works If You Work It." So here's your take home for today before I check in the comments with you guys. So she says, take out 2 sheets of paper. On one, write a list of things you truly have no control over. When the sun sets, your shoe size, your partner snoring. On the other, write a list of things you can control. Whether or not you watch the sunset, what type of shoes you buy, whether or not you sleep with earplugs. So we can do that, right? And that is helpful. And it does sound like another one of those little silly things to do, but I often find the silly things that I've been suggested to do in my life are actually the things that really work. So let's think about that, So write yourself 2 lists. Write it on 2 separate pieces of paper, or take 1 piece of paper, split it down the middle, make 2 columns. So on one list, you're going to write all the things that you have no control over. Anything you can think of. It doesn't matter what it is. All the things that you know that you have no control over. And then on the other list, write a list of all the things that you do that you can control. And then when you're done with that list, destroy the first list as an act of letting go. I love that. It is an act of letting go. It's a practice in that. And it's just a reminder to, okay, here's a giant list of all the things I can't control. Okay? Well, if I can't control it, then why am I going to try and put all this energy and waste my energy on those things that I can't do anything about? Throw out the list. So that was a little bit of today's reading. So I hope you guys got as much out of that as I did. And again, it's just this constant reminder that, we just need to continue to practice these things. And some days we're going to do really well at practicing these things and putting them into motion. And other days we're going to do really crappy at it. And that's okay. We can have acceptance in that, right? Like, oh, geez, like today I didn't do so well. Okay, well, I can't go back and change it, but what do I have control over? What can I do moving forward for the rest of my day? Do I have to let the rest of my day be ruined because of something that happened this morning, because of something someone said or did that pissed me off? Or can I reset? Can I pause? Can I write down that list of things I have control over and the things I don't have control over, and can I move forward and turn my day around? Or can I start fresh tomorrow? Even just having acceptance over those little things. Jake says, I was talking about acceptance yesterday with my counselor. I went through a divorce 3 years ago, and it was something that has always caused me to feel abandoned and shameful. Everything I've went through, though, has really taught me so much about myself. Most importantly, it's taught me how to love myself. I can accept everything. That doesn't mean I don't get sad about the past. I recognize my mental health wasn't right, but I also recognize that I've always had a huge heart. At the end of the day, I accept the person I've always been despite the struggles. I can look at what has happened and really focus on learning and growing from it. It's made me realize so much about myself and expand on the love, and in turn I can give that love out tenfold. I love that. And I really appreciate your vulnerability and your share, Jake. I mean, it's it's so important. That's something that's really difficult for you to have gone through. Those are some really difficult things to deal with in life. Absolutely. I feel for you. But look at all the lessons that you've pulled out of that, right? We can find the silver lining in things sometimes. Learning all the acceptance that it's taught you. That is so amazing. Again, thank you for your vulnerability, for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And that's just that you made a good point, right? That doesn't mean I don't get sad about the past, So when we think about these things from our past that cause us to be any of those negative emotions, right? When we think about those things, it doesn't mean that it's not going to bring up those emotions again, right? It's just accepting that, okay, well, I can't go back and change this thing, but I can still feel the feelings. And sometimes those things are, maybe they didn't happen that long ago. Maybe they're still really fresh in your minds and in your hearts, right? So of course it's going to still prompt those emotions, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that I don't get sad about them, but it's still just recognizing and accepting that situation or those people for exactly who they are or what they are, and really bringing that focus back to us. Okay, well, what do I have control over? What have I learned out of this? How can I move forward in life with that? So a lot of really good lessons in there. Good stuff. Hey Jesse, hey Erica. Glad everybody's joining in. So yeah, that was, it is a challenge. Like, I think even acceptance for me is just one of those things that has been a bigger practice than many other things, right? It's really difficult for us when we realize that things are out of our control. Um, when there are so many uncertainties and so many unknowns, and even now, like there is so many unknowns, right? And it's like I said earlier, I was reading all about this thing about grief and just realizing that the discomfort that we're feeling right now is grief. But it's being able to again just accept what it is and kind of name it and feel our way through it. So there's this. I'm kind of reading off of one of the PDFs that I got from this webinar just a little while ago. So the question was, what do you say to someone who's read all this and is still feeling overwhelmed with grief? And the author says, keep trying. There is something powerful about naming this as grief, right? Naming this as grief, naming it for what it is, accepting what it is, accepting the situation that we're all in right now. We can name it as grief. It helps us feel what's inside of us. He says, so many have told me in the past week, I'm telling my coworkers I'm having a hard time, or I cried last night. When you name it, you feel it, and it moves through you. Emotions need motion. It's important that we acknowledge what we're going through, right? It's important that we acknowledge and accept what we're going through. Accept that we can't stop this thing that is greater than us, but rather just feel our way through it. So that was just a little something I thought I'd share from that. It's a really good article. He says, one unfortunate byproduct of the self-help movement is we're the first generation to have feelings about our feelings. We tell ourselves things like, I feel sad, but I shouldn't feel that. Other people have it worse. I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely thought that through a lot of this because I found so many things in my life to be grateful for, even through these really challenging times. Like, I do have so many things that I get to be grateful for. So sometimes I get in that mode of like, oh, I'm feeling sad, but I don't know why I'm feeling that way, or I shouldn't feel that. But he says we can and we should stop at that first feeling. I feel sad. Just leave it at that. Let me go for 5 minutes to feel sad. Your work is to feel your sadness and fear and anger, whether or not someone else is feeling something. Fighting it doesn't help because your body is producing the feeling. If we allow the feelings to happen, they'll happen in an orderly way and it empowers us. Then we're not victims. And so much of acceptance is just really just tied into that too, just accepting the situation really as it is, right? Accepting that my emotions are all over the place lately. They're all sorts of up and down and all around, and it's different from today than it was yesterday and than it will be tomorrow. But accepting that and just allowing myself to feel through those things, like it's okay. Recognizing that there's so many things in my past that I can't change, but also recognizing that there are still things, despite all of this right now, that I still have control over. I have control over whether I get up and get out of bed every day, whether I take a shower, get some type of physical activity in there, whether I'm eating things that are good for me and kind of fueling myself the way I need to. Or I also have a choice to stay in bed and not do any of those things that I know work for me. It's finding this balance, because there are days where I do feel like what I need is to just kind of stay in bed and let myself feel through those feelings, But for me, I don't do that every day. I don't stay there, because then when I do, then I'm starting to recognize that, all right, something else is going on here that I'm not wanting to deal with, So I can accept what is, and I can get up and I can do the things that I need to do to help me push through that day, right? Nikki says, acceptance can be challenging because there's nothing we have control over except how we let things affect us. Absolutely. It took me forever to realize I can't even control my emotions, just how I let them handle me. Yeah, absolutely. Same boat, Sometimes we feel like, when those emotions come up that we do have to try to control them, or, just like what I was reading, like, oh, I'm feeling sad, but I really shouldn't because everyone else has it a lot worse. Like that's me trying to control my emotions, I just can't. What the author had said, like, no, just let it stop there at the first feeling, right? I feel sad. Period. Just letting it stop there and just really being like, okay, well, let me go feel sad for 5 minutes. Let me go feel sad for half a day. Lay in bed and, feel through that. Whether I need to call somebody and cry or, just, cuddle your pets or whatever it is that you need to do to get through that. And then getting up and moving on, right? We have that power and choice. Good point, Nikki. love this, feel them, and let them go. As long as we don't stay in any one emotion, we are okay, right? Exactly, and and like that's how we're built, and that's how we're wired, right? Like so, we're always having emotions. We're always experiencing different things throughout our day. We're always experiencing change. That's how life works, and that's how humans are built. You know, I don't know the science behind that, but in the sense of emotions and feelings, like those are constantly changing. Always, our feelings and emotions are always changing. You know, so just accepting that, you know, like Mackenzie had said in the reading, like acceptance is not getting in that mindset of like, okay, well, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what the situation is, and then now it's always going to be like that. You know, that's kind of getting us in that victim mindset, you know, but recognizing that's not what it is, but right now, this is the thing that's happening. Right now, this is what I'm going through. Right now, this is what I'm feeling. I can acknowledge that, and then I can move forward from it, right? So, definitely some really good practices to stay in the forefront of our minds, too. So, I hope you guys uh, enjoyed that a little bit today. And if you can do the take home, that's an awesome practice, too. So, she asked you to make 2 different lists. On one list, you're going to write anything that you can think of that you do not have control over, and then you're going to write another list, all the things that you do have control over. Then once you're done with both of those, take your first list, rip it up, and throw it away. And there's your act of acceptance and letting go for the day. So thank you guys so much for tuning in here. David, what's wrong with your phone? He says, I can't hear a word you're saying. I'm sorry. For those of you who maybe can't view this live video for whatever reason, David, or maybe you came in late, or maybe you missed these, that's okay. All these videos do save. So you guys can go back to our Rock Recovery Fitness Facebook page and look at all the past videos. We also have our own YouTube channel now, so I put the link for that up in the description up above, so you can click that and go watch all the videos that everyone has posted. There's been some really amazing content by some of the other rock recovery crews, so I hope that you guys are able to check those out. Share them with people, share them with your friends, share them with your family. Again, if you guys are looking to connect with any of us through our peer mentor services, or you just need some support, please feel free to reach out. You can call our peer mentor hotline at 585-622-4975. You can also Facebook message us, and you can also email us. All that information right now is in the above description of this video. So again, if you guys are feeling like you need support and need to connect, or maybe you've got family or friends that could also use that, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here for you. So I hope you guys can hang on to that little bit of hope every single day, and I really appreciate you guys always showing up. It truly makes my day. So just reading more comments here. This is wonderful. Thank you. You're welcome. Glad you're here, Holly. You guys are always so wonderful, just chiming in, and I really do appreciate all the vulnerability and everyone's shares that have been on here. It's just been so powerful, even for me to just watch and read through some of these. So thank you guys for showing up. I hope you have an awesome day, and we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, so I'll be here. We'll see you guys. Bye.